Okay, this is Mike Franklin, a property tax guy. And today we're going to talk about an interaction I had with the town of Clayton with an assessment situation. Where do I begin? It was just ridiculous from beginning to end. So why don't I just tell you the story about what happened? And I would like to, in particular, have the town board and the supervisor and the town attorney pay attention to this. And my understanding is they did a revaluation last year. And the assessor tells me that they had approximately 500 bar hearings, which is kind of curious. He indicated there were only 4 SCAR hearings. So any of you taxpayers who are amongst the 500, you got to follow through. And if you need help, you should give me a call. It's Mike Franklin, the property tax guy, 315-876-2262. The Board of Assessment Review, in my experience across the state, I've participated in cases in approximately 30 counties so far. And I usually go nowhere with the bar. A lot of times it's a bunch of political cronyism. I'm not saying that's what's going on in Clayton, but I know in the city of Syracuse, it's a bunch of crony nonsense, and 4 out of the 5 of them have no real valuation experience. And so they don't even know what I'm talking about. And then they just make political determinations. They were appointed by the same people that appointed the assessor. And so you can't expect a different result. So I don't know exactly what happened with this Board of Assessment Review and in this one, but the result was the same. It was a denial, and there was absolutely no reason for a denial. Again, if you need help with the SCAR process, you should give me a call. It's not abnormal for you to lose at bar. I almost always do lose at bar, and I almost always win at SCAR. Because if you can get a fair hearing, and if you're in the right, I believe for the most part, you'll get a fair hearing and you should be able to prevail. But of course, you have to be right. The objective is to get to what is equitable, nothing more and nothing less. And if you're trying to get more than you deserve, please don't bother to call me, because I'm not interested in that. We're trying to get to what's right. So here's what transpired. The tentative rolls come out on May 1st typically, and then they have the Board of Assessment Review usually towards the end of May. So people have 3.5 weeks, depending on when they get their notice. They don't necessarily even get it that on May 1st. And so they don't have much time to look into, what to do. And so, they have time to look into it and give me a call. And then I have to scramble to get a petition in, and then try to communicate with the assessor. And so in this case, when I tried to submit the Board of Assessment Review petition, the RP 524, they get back to me and say that it has to either be by facsimile or delivered in person. And my client was out of town. Obviously, it's a seasonal property. It's on an island, and it's it was unavailable to deliver it in person. And I'm not going to drive up from Syracuse to Watertown to provide a petition. This should be able to be emailed. And so they insisted that it be faxed, because the law was made in 1982, and they used fax machines back then. And so apparently I talked to the assessor, and he says that wasn't his doing. He would love to get emails, but apparently it sounds like the town attorney took a New York State website a little too literally, from a law that was made in 1982. And he didn't have the common sense enough to know that, there's something wrong with this picture. People don't use fax machines anymore. And the majority of Clayton's, money comes from the island dwellers. So they don't live in Clayton. They're from all over the country, and they can't be there in person. And, it was just asinine. So she had to scramble to get a fax, or they were going to dismiss her case if she didn't get her facsimile in on time. Just absolutely asinine, and extremely poor customer service. but the assessor says that wasn't his doing. And so I'm going to blame it on the town attorney, because it's quite often these town attorneys know nothing about assessments, and they like to filibuster and delay and evade FOIL requests and things of that nature. And I tell you the truth, I'm really kind of tired of town attorneys, and and I would like to see some of them show up in a SCAR hearing with me, so I can give them a little education and give them a little beat down. I had one of the city of Syracuse. They had two lawyers in a SCAR hearing with me, and I made a fool out of all three of them, because they are fools. They don't know anything about it, and they're just being ridiculous. So the town of Clayton attorney is part of the problem here. The other part of the problem is the state. So the poor assessor had 500 bar cases, and it all has to happen in a matter of 3-4 weeks. And so he's so inundated that he doesn't have time to review it with me, and that's on the state. The state doesn't give people enough time. When the SCAR petition goes to the SCAR hearing officer, the SCAR hearing officer has 45 days to get around to scheduling it. But everybody else has 3 weeks to do everything. It creates chaos, and part of the reason behind that is that it's run by the unified court system, and all the administrative judges in the unified court system could care less about any of this. They're all collecting their $250,000 and their pension and their benefits, and all this is beneath them. They don't give a damn about the runaround the taxpayers get. They just don't care. And so I'm going to blame the unified court system. They were paid to administer the SCAR program. They're not doing the job properly. I'm going to blame the town attorney for not having some common sense. I'm going to blame the supervisor, because I contacted him and he blew me off. Couldn't be bothered. In retrospect, he had 500 people probably calling him, and that were upset. So, it's kind of a combination of factors. So I wasn't too happy with the assessor, but he called me on the phone, and we had a talk, and so I understand his position. He did get me my FOIL data in a timely manner, so I appreciate that. And so hopefully we can communicate with each other in the future. It was just a bad set of circumstance, but they did the reval. I would like to know the details of how the reval was done, because obviously on my property, they didn't do an individual evaluation on the class and the grade of property. So, it looks like all they did is switch the numbers around, so I'd be interested in the details of how they actually did that revaluation. It sounds like there was a lot of clicking of the mouse going on, but, maybe somebody will tell me differently. So what else is there to say about the town of Clayton? Next year they won't have a reval, so they'll probably be a little more under control. But it just astounds me that these municipalities collect all this money from these taxpayers and they can't be bothered to respond to their inquiries in good faith. So here's what I want to tell the town supervisor and the town attorney what the assessor's job is. I think this assessor knows what his job is, so I think you're good. But for all the other towns out there, and as an example, most supervisors, most town boards, they've only known 1 or 2 assessors, so they don't really know how assessors are supposed to operate. They just have no experience. They don't know anything about it. Whereas I've done it in 30 counties and I've dealt with dozens of assessors. I know what a good assessor is. I know what a bad assessor is. I've seen everything from fraud to laziness to to anything in between. Taking care of their crony friends and sticking it to the out of town people they perceive to be rich. To me, it's kind of outrageous that the people who are generating majority of the money in Clayton can't even vote there. It's kind of outrageous. And so they give all this money, and the town supervisor can't be bothered to return your phone call, or they want you to force you to do it by fax. But it's statewide. This stuff goes on all the time, and And a lot of these assessors, are, they have the power to do nothing, so they ignore people. That's the little power that they have, so they get off on it. And it's kind of like a bad cop. Why does a bad cop behave the way a bad cop does? Because of his training, because of his supervision, uh, because of the judiciary. Something leads them to believe that what they're doing is appropriate. Something leads them to believe that they can get away with it. And in this case, it would be the town board and the town supervisor and the town attorney. But I'm going to say that this assessor, um, after 3 months of going through this, let's see, May, June, July, August. It's almost September. 4 months we've been going through this, and I finally am able to communicate with the assessor. It's unfortunate, but that's what's going on in the town of Clayton. Very poor customer service from the town supervisor. The town attorney. I got a phone call from an attorney from Clayton. He was the most condescending, arrogant jackass, and he absolutely knew nothing of what it is that he was talking about. And I'll be curious to know how much they paid him, for that conversation. I'm going to attach that at the end of this video, so that you can see the arrogant and condescending tone of their attorney, and then you can see how I respond. I respond because I'm kind of sick of this stuff. The taxpayers, the town works for the taxpayers, and they don't seem to get that. And that's true all across our country is that we gave some authority to our government, and they turn it around on us, and so now we work for them. It's not the way it's supposed to be. They work for us. The assessor works for us. The town attorney works for us. The town supervisor works for us. And they're collecting all this money from all these people. And, it's just a simple customer service issue. You're collecting money. When you're paid to do a job and you don't do it, it's called fraud. They were paid money to do this assessment process properly, and it hasn't been done properly. So now we know that part of the problem is the state. Part of the problem was they had to do a reval. I'm going to give the town credit for doing a reval because it creates havoc, and it's not politically expedient, but it needs to be done. And so I'm going to give them credit for that, but they need to follow through and be ready. And so if they're in a position where they can't follow through in the job properly because the state doesn't give them enough time to do it, they need to talk to the state and tell them, this is messed up. You're putting us in a position where we can't treat the taxpayers, our customers, properly. You need to fix the SCAR program. You need to fix the entire real property tax law system. It hasn't changed since 1982. You need to fix it so we can serve our taxpayers properly, because otherwise it's putting a lot of stress on that assessor. And these assessors have a very difficult and thankless job. You need to provide them with the resources to do the job properly. You got to give them the time to do the job properly. And so the state being lazy is causing stress on this assessor and making it so he can't do his job properly. And, and he probably doesn't appreciate people yelling at him when it's not his fault, when it's the state's fault, when it's the town attorney's fault, when it's the town supervisor's fault, and the town board's fault. So, and also, the Board of Assessment Review, they need to look into these things in good faith. And I'm really tired of how Board of Assessment Reviews work. It's just I don't understand why they can't do this job properly. But it's just so rare that a Board of Assessment Review does the job properly. They need to listen, and they need to they need to treat the taxpayers with respect. They need to give them enough time to make their argument. And they need to be patient, because a lot of people don't know how this stuff works. And the reason they don't know how this stuff works is because the state made this ridiculous program that very few people understand. So anyway, good and bad in the town of Clayton. They just got to clean it up a little bit. And after talking to the assessor, I have faith he's capable of doing the job, but he needs some help from the town, and he needs some help from the state so he can do the job properly. This is Mike Franklin, the property tax guy. Oh. Hello. Hello.
Hello, is Michael Franklin there?
Speaking.
Michael, this is Dan Vincelette. I'm an attorney representing the town of Clayton in their assessment matters. I've been reviewing your hearing for tomorrow on Round Island and with the assessor this morning, and he's willing to settle this. Is your client interested in compromising on this?
Yeah, certainly that, they're open to suggestion. It's just that, he's way off on condition and grade. That's pretty much the bottom line.
Listen, I without getting into the substance, he's willing to resolve this. He's willing to resolve this by reducing the assessment from 510 to 475. So if you want to review that with your client, just advise us if that's acceptable.
Yeah. I got to tell you something. My client tried to file a petition, and through email, and he made my client jump through hoops to get a fax machine, because they're saying it only can be submitted through fax or through in person, and it's just I don't know who he thinks he works for, but to jerk around the taxpayers like that.
Michael, I don't want to get into that. My client's willing to resolve this for 475. Just let me know if that's acceptable.
Why don't you go fuck yourself, okay?
Wow. Okay. All right, Michael.
Have a good day. Okay, I'm going to respond to what the Clayton town attorney had to say. First of all, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He gets involved in something he knows absolutely nothing about. He comes on and he starts dictating a term, and he was arrogant and condescending. And I just, I don't like to use that kind of language, and I don't, I'd like to keep it civil. But he was, his behavior was inappropriate, and I just, told him what it is that I thought. It was simple as that. These town attorneys, they don't have any concept of customer service. They think because they passed the bar, they know everything, and they know nothing about this stuff, is my experience across the state. And, they just, I don't know why he was involved in this case, but because the assessment wasn't done properly the first time, the taxpayer had to get me involved, had to get the attorney involved, had to get the state hearing officer involved, all because the job wasn't done properly in the first place. And I did speak to the assessor, and I appreciate his position. Basically, he was put in a position where it was impossible for him to do his job properly. And the reason that is because, two reasons. One, they're doing a reval this year. But if you're going to do a reval, you need to do it properly. So, but the other thing is the state doesn't give them enough time to do the job properly, nor does the state give the taxpayers enough time to, look into this before, filing petitions. And so, I blame a lot of this on the state. And so, they need to talk to the state. If they're putting the assessor in a bad position where he's not capable of doing the job properly, he's probably got people yelling at him. And there's nothing he can do about it because he doesn't have enough time to do the job properly. So what the town needs to do is, when they see that, they need to contact the state and say, look, it's impossible for us to do our job properly. We're paid to do a job, and we can't do it because the state program is not set up properly. It only gives people like 3 weeks to be able to interact with the assessor, once they get their notice. And then they have bar, and it just isn't appropriate, and it puts unnecessary stress on the assessor. And then I get a call from this jackass attorney who has no clue what's going on. And just so you know, I was able to communicate with the assessor, and we were able to come up with an equitable solution that everybody could live with. No thanks to that attorney. So this is Mike Franklin, the property tax guy.